Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you might be listening from, and welcome to episode 7 of Dugout Talk. My name is Stephen Gossman.
As always, I'm Cameron Lingle.
So yesterday, just a quick breakdown, we talked about the Boston Red Sox heading into 2021. And as we were getting off recording yesterday, in between editing and publishing, the Red Sox bolstered their bullpen with a trade of Adam Ottavino to the Yankees. So we wanted to give you guys, or Adam Ottavino was traded from the Yankees to the Red Sox. So we wanted to just give you a quick update on that. I don't believe this makes Boston that much better in the division
No.
standings, but they at least added a piece to their bullpen, and they now have potentially three locked in bullpen pieces instead of two
hmm
from the show yesterday.
Yeah,
So
he could
let's.
even he could even be a closer. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I think Matt Barnes doesn't so much have the closer's role anymore,
Yeah.
like we were saying. So normally we begin our show with day in history, but because we're going to be breaking down the Baltimore Orioles today. And there's this big news story that's been breaking over the last 12 hours or so. We felt like it was more appropriate to talk about this today instead of diving into history. But yesterday, the Cactus League proposed to Major League Baseball to delay the start of the 2021 spring training season in Arizona. And this has to do with the rising number of cases with COVID-19 in Maricopa County, which is the county that Phoenix and the suburbs lie in, um, which in a way, well, not in a way, it makes complete sense why the Cactus League would want this. But here's where the issue comes in. The city of Phoenix and the surrounding cities have been allowing fans at their sporting events. The Arizona Coyotes, who play in Glendale, have been allowing fans to attend their games. High school sports have been allowing fans to attend games. So, and now the Major League Baseball Players Union is accusing the Office of Major League Baseball of forcing the Cactus League to release this letter to the public just to prove their point of not wanting to play a full season. Which, if this is true, this is absolutely crazy
Yeah.
on both sides. And it's not a secret that the union and Major League Baseball have been at odds with each other over the years. It seems like one side, which is the union, they want to play as many games as possible. They want to play a full season, but the office itself and the owners of the major league teams, they don't want to do this. So these two sides have been butting heads with each other. This goes back even before COVID.
hmm
These sides have not really been in agreement on anything, it feels like. And now, as we're trying to get the 2021 season underway, we're in jeopardy again of losing a good chunk of the season. Cam, what are some of your early thoughts, just kind of as the story has been breaking since yesterday?
Well, it's unfortunate. Like, that all the fans really want is just some baseball. We're, I believe, now less than 3 weeks away. We might be right at or very, very barely under 3 weeks from the start of pitchers and catchers reporting, and I don't see how it would be an issue. I'm sure that the players, um, could work out, exercise, practice, and play in their spring training facilities without any fans in the stands, like other areas of Maricopa County have been doing. Um, but if it's, I mean, we've had uh, multiple strikes in baseball history, and this kind of just has the making of another thing. Not to downplay the impact of COVID, but this really gives the owners and the players association just another avenue to bicker and argue and try to pull a fast one on each other. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get them anywhere at all.
I don't see how this does either. I think while, yes, COVID is something to take seriously,
Yes.
and by no means we're not downplaying it, it also feels like the owners are almost abusing
Mm,
the COVID the COVID thing. Um, it kind of feels like they're just using any excuse they can to not pay players full prorated salaries just because there may not be fans in the stands going into 2021. And I get it, fan revenue, if fans being at the game does provide a majority of the revenue that comes into major league teams. That's understandable that they wouldn't want to give the full prorated salaries to that point. But when you're trying to use a pandemic as your way out, and not so much, because this doesn't even feel like they care about safety anymore. This
Yeah.
just feels more like they care about keeping money in their pockets.
Yeah.
Um, and these owners have enough financial stability that
Yeah.
they can afford it. And I get it's not convenient, but it's not like they can't afford to pay their players, even if there aren't any fans in the stands. So, take it as you will. I think I get why there is some concerns about whether the season could be played safely, but even the union came out yesterday and said the players are adults. They understand what they're doing. Pretty much they said they can take care of themselves and they
Yeah.
know what they need to do to stay safe and keep others around them safe. And as long as they're doing that, there's no reason that a full major league season can be played. Um, so this is kind of a story that is still ongoing, and pitchers and catchers are scheduled to report February 17th. Um, so we are about 3 weeks away, give or take, from that happening, with the first spring training games scheduled for February 27th. So it's coming up. The season is coming, and Major League Baseball needs to decide quickly what's going to happen. Granted, teams do not have to train in Arizona necessarily.
Hmm.
There's California has potential to be a training site. Texas could be. Um, and even then, the Cactus League could start a little later, and
Hmm.
the Cactus League season just gets cut short a little bit, which I'm not sure if the players would necessarily be on board with that, but it's an option. It's not like, they don't have to delay the Cactus League necessarily, but if they do delay the Cactus League, there's ways to do it so that then it can still take place, even if it means players in the Cactus League don't get as much reps and practice time in as the Grapefruit League. And speaking of the Grapefruit League, they don't seem to be concerned about this at all, even though Florida is another hotbed for COVID.
Hmm.
The Grapefruit League seems to be pretty set to do a full Grapefruit League season.
Yeah. I mean, even if we have to shorten both, to keep the playing field level, even if we rather than rather than have pitchers and catchers report on Wednesday the 17th, have them report on Wednesday the 24th, and then we just cut down a week of spring training games. I know most of the time, MLB quality players, you know, they only play a couple innings a game anyway, so maybe this could be an opportunity to get them longer in game time. You can keep them in the game longer, but they don't have to play as often. So I think that, I don't know how much delaying a week would do. Um, I don't know what Maricopa County or the mayors of these various cities and suburbs. I don't know what they need. Why? What can they provide by Major League Baseball suspending the Cactus League for a set period of time? What in return, will the mayors do? Are they just asking for it to be pushed back so that, potential COVID cases for players go down? Are they going to, take charge and make facilities safer for players? Are they going to make the surrounding areas safer for players? I don't know. I don't know where the cause for pushing this back, any less than a week. I don't see how that really benefits anybody.
Players want a full season. Owners don't want a full season.
Yeah.
The union wants a full season. It seems like, even though Commissioner Manfred has come out and said prepare for a full 162 game season, it makes you wonder, does he actually want to do that?
Hmm.
Um, so we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. This does have the lookings of a potential strike taking place, though. Um, we don't want to discourage any fans or anything like that, but
Mm-mm.
it's it's looking more and more like at some point the two sides are just they're gonna be so fed up with each other. The players are gonna decide we're not taking this crap anymore. We're done. Um, so fans just kind of take this with a grain of salt right now. We don't know everything that's going on, but it has the potential that this could get ugly, and it could get ugly really quick. But until then, we're gonna keep breaking down teams. We're not gonna change anything up. Um, for the time being, unless we hear something for sure that we're not going to have a season. We're still going to break down every team before spring training actually begins. And who knows, with Cactus League, if Cactus League does get suspended, we might actually get through all 30 teams before spring
Yeah.
training even begins. So um, we hope you'll keep joining us and keep listening to us. And let's go ahead and break down the Baltimore Orioles going into 2021.
All right. So looking at their roster, I see a lot of homegrown talent. Uh, just looking at their projected starting nine according to Fangraphs, um, all of their players have either been drafted in the amateur draft, drafted in the Rule 5 draft, or selected off waivers, in previous seasons. Uh, most they actually have two projected first round draft picks in DJ Stewart and Ryan Mountcastle in their projected lineup. That's without, of course, their top prospect Adley Rutschman. Um, their rotation has a lot of homegrown talent. Their bullpen has a lot of homegrown talent. This just looks like they're rebuilding the right way at this point. They're not just going out and picking up random dudes, just trying to stay uncompetitive like some teams it feels like try to do these days. Teams like the Pirates, um, where they will literally just pick up a dude and just kind of put him out there and throw him to the wolves, so to say. Um, the Orioles are drafting well, and those talents that they are drafting are finally beginning to make their major league debuts. So I think I saw some good things out of the Orioles last season, finishing with a 35-45 record. That's not that bad for a 60 games. Yeah, that's not that bad for the COVID shortened season. I think I have their record wrong here. Um,
25 and 35, I think, is
yeah,
what you meant to
20,
say.
25-35. That's correct. Thank you. Um, Not bad, finishing 10 games under 500 in a 60 game shortened season for a team like this. I think over the course of a full 162, you're probably looking closer to like 70 to 75 wins. But they're they're on the right path. They're definitely making some good gains. I'm not sure your thoughts, but I think they have a decently bright future as of right now.
Yeah, so I was looking at their 2020 roster or their lineup at mostly compared to what they have going into 2021, and they were not big players in the free agent market by any means. Their biggest signing was Yolmer Sanchez,
Mm-hmm.
the former Chicago White Sox second baseman, and but they had some really notable losses on the offensive side. They let
Yeah.
Renato Nunez walk. They let Alberto walk. Jose
Mm-hmm.
Iglesias was given the pink slip pretty much. Some of their best hitters.
Yeah.
These are the best guys from their season last year that they let walk. And I was also looking at the Orioles roster last year, and they actually, like you said, they did put up some promise, especially with some of their top prospects starting to appear in the show. And it looks like when I was looking at some of these guys' numbers throughout their minor leagues, a good chunk of these guys were already in AAA going into
Mm-hmm.
in 2019.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say that 2020 they probably would have debuted either way to some degree. And
Yep.
now 2021's coming in, and assuming we have a full season, these guys should get a very good chunk of playing time in. Um, and I actually like what the Orioles have on paper. I think they could make the AL East very interesting over the next couple of years. I don't expect them to compete this year, but I think they are a team that could surprise a lot of people. I don't think they're going to lose 100 games like they did in 2018 and 2019 both years. Um, and to me, Brandon Hyde is a good skipper to have leading the club right now. He's 79 and 144 in his 2 years with the team. But this is kind of his proof year as to whether or not he can do the job. And Hyde has always been he's been a top candidate for years before he landed the Orioles job in 2019. He'd been a candidate for years to get a managerial gig. And this is, I think at first, at least to me, I felt it was a little criminal to give him a job that it was guaranteed he was pretty much guaranteed to fail at his first year.
Yeah.
But it seems like the players really respect him. And I think, again, this is going to be a season where he proves if he's capable of doing the job in the future or not. Because this is a really young team that the Orioles are fielding, and pretty much everybody who is on the opening day or the projected opening day lineup is homegrown, like you were saying. And the nice thing is, too, is they're going to get Trey Mancini back this year.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Mancini
that's gonna be big.
Yeah, Mancini did not play last year because he was battling cancer,
Hmm.
and thankfully he has beaten cancer and he is projected to be ready for opening day. I think he's going to be the DH primarily. At least that's what
Hmm.
Fangraph says. That's what they have him. And they gave him a team friendly 1 year deal going into this year. Um, so Mancini is going to be a big boost for their offense. As far as the lineup goes, it was a little hard to construct it. I'm not entirely sure what the team is looking at. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are exactly, but I'll just share what I've got for them right now going in as what their opening day lineup could look like. So I've got Yolmer Sanchez leading off, playing second base. I think it's safe to say he's got that job unless something happens to him. Austin Hayes in center, batting second. Anthony Santander in right field, batting third. Trey Mancini, the DH, batting fourth. Ryan Mountcastle, one of their top prospects, at first base, batting fifth. Rio Ruiz, the third baseman, will bat sixth. Another top prospect, DJ Stewart, playing left field and batting seventh. I picked Chance Cisco over Pedro Severino doing the catching on opening day and batting eighth, and then Richie Martin playing short and batting ninth. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now is going to be the case, although I'm sure it's a toss up between several players at this point.
Yeah, yeah, that's almost identical to what mine is. I have Chance Cisco not so much being the starter over Pedro Severino, but I do have him as the opening day guy. Um, I think Chris Davis will be a good guy coming off the bench for them. I hope and pray all the time that he has some sort of turnaround. You know, he was a guy that's always easy to root for. He played the game the right way, carried himself the right way. It's unfortunate that he's essentially forgotten how to hit a ball, but you know, hopefully he can turn that around. I've got Pedro Severino, like you said, on the bench. I've got Pat Valika. He's a great all around utility, super utility guy. He can play most of the infield. He can play most of the outfield. Um, and I've also got Cedric Mullins that I think at any point in time could take either Austin Hayes or DJ Stewart's job. Um, Cedric, you know, a couple of times last year, I got to watch him personally play against the Yankees on TV, and he shows quite a bit of potential as well. So yeah, looking at their lineup, um, it's very clear they're not even trying to compete for really anything. I think their first and only goal is to figure out which of these top prospects Uh, which of these top prospects will be uh, future contributors to this team? Austin Hayes, their center fielder, he was drafted in the third round. DJ Stewart, their left fielder, was drafted in the first round. Um, Trey Mancini, their DH, was drafted in the eighth round. Chance Cisco was a second round draft pick. Ryan Mountcastle was a first round draft pick. I think those will be the main guys to look at. Um, and those will be the main guys to keep an eye on because those will be the main players that they will hopefully be able to decide if they have any real long term future with this club or not. It also depends on when they plan on competing, and it depends on what their situation looks like this year. Because maybe if we don't end up playing a full season and it's cut short again, maybe they like the Marlins last season, kind of strike fire, and maybe they go and acquire someone, maybe they trade a couple pieces. There's still a lot of possibilities for this team. I just don't know. I think depending on the situation will determine what kind of route they go with some of these guys who could be trade pieces for them come July.
Yeah, this is a year for the Orioles where they're not expected to compete, but I think with what they have on the field, one, they have a team. They're not throwing the towel in either going into 2021. And two, kind of like what I was saying earlier, this team could surprise a lot of people, like what you said about the Marlins last year, especially in a shortened season, is the outcome could be a lot different for them. I mean, they finished fourth. They finished fourth in the division last year, and I'm not sure in a full season they would have finished fourth in the AL East. But with what they have going into spring training, I think fans can look upwards more. Now, obviously, this isn't the same team that they had during the Buck Showalter era. This is a lot. This team is built differently. But you also have to think about Adley Rutschman.
Mm-hmm.
When is he going to get called up? Because he is knocking on the door fast. He was the number one overall pick in 2019, and he's also a catcher. So you got to wonder what the team is going to do between Severino and Chance Cisco. My guess is Cisco's probably going to be the guy that they go with. He seems to be more favored than Severino because he's better on defense. Severino's a lot better with the bat, and Adley Rutschman is supposed to be really good with the bat. So I think if he does come up sooner rather than later during the season, the Orioles could trade Severino for more prospects. Severino's young enough; he's only going to be 27 this year. He's young enough that you can still get a good return for him, and he probably can be a starter on a handful of clubs going into
Yeah.
this year too. Um, and yeah, like I said, Adley Rutschman, he's their number one prospect right now, and I don't know when they're planning to call him up. I imagine spring training is going to determine kind of how fast they do
Yeah.
bring him up. I don't think there's any rush to bring him up at this point in the
Mm-mm.
year, unless if maybe the team feels like they're going to compete with everyone else in the division and they think he can be a boost in their lineup. Um, but yeah, I think offensively, going into spring training, this team is pretty set. There doesn't seem to be a ton of competition for a lot of spots. I think it's just a matter of who becomes regular starters. And I like what you said about Cedric Mullins because I think he has the ability to be an everyday starter, but he can easily
Mm-hmm.
be a fourth outfielder for the team
Oh,
as
easily.
well.
Yeah, easily.
And if they decide to maybe slide Anthony Santander into the DH role because he's got a pretty heavy bat on him, he had
Mm-hmm.
261 last year with 11 homers in 37 games. Cedric could easily play outfield while he's doing DH duties, or um, maybe Cedric Mullins and Austin Hayes split time
Mm-hmm.
in center field, depending on what they want to do. I think Mullins has the better glove. Hayes is more of the bat. So I
Yeah.
guess it just depends on a given day what you would rather have in your outfield if you're Brandon Hyde. Um,
Yeah.
go.
Switching over to their rotation quick. a couple guys that I honestly have barely heard of. They're definitely going with a really young rotation. I think Alex Cobb probably plans to be the probably the ace, quote unquote ace of that staff. I imagine that either he or John Means will get the opening day nod. I know one of the I don't know how much of a fan favorite Asher Wojciechowski was in his time in Baltimore, but he's no longer there. The Yankees picked him up, I believe, off waivers a couple days ago, so he's not someone that they can rely on. So you got Alex Cobb, John Means, Keegan Aiken, Dean Kremer, and Bruce Zimmerman. That's certainly a rotation to be proud of right there. I'm surprised that Fangraphs has Hunter Harvey. Actually has Hunter Harvey as Baltimore's projected closer. I don't know. I don't think he did any closing in 2020 if he did play for the big league club, but I figured they'd still be looking at Hunter Harvey as a potential starter or maybe a potential long or middle relief guy. I didn't think they'd look at him as a closer. I figured that closing job would probably go to a guy like Tanner Scott, Paul Fry, or Cesar Valdez. Another guy to look at for the rotation is Dylan Tate, the guy that they picked up in, I believe, the Zach Britton trade a couple years ago. He was someone that he actually was acquired by the Yankees in the Texas Rangers trade for Carlos Beltran, and he was one of the brighter prospects that we had for a couple years. It sucked to see him go to Baltimore like that because I know what kind of potential he has. I would look for him to maybe be a sneaky good contributor. I think that the 3, 4, and 5 spot. I think any spots in the Baltimore rotation are up for grabs. So I would look for Dylan Tate to definitely be at some point this season a key contributor for that rotation, and I wouldn't count out Hunter Harvey as potentially getting a few starts here and there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the thing to note too with the Orioles is, yeah, Alex Cobb is probably going to be the ace. John Means is likely their number two. Um, they also have their number nine prospect, Michael Baumann, who looks to be in the mix for them as well. But they have a lot of guys that could be bullpen pieces, could be starting pieces. Um, and because these guys are so young and are probably going to be, a lot of these guys will also be playing their first full seasons in the major leagues. This is actually a good problem for the Orioles to have because
Mm-hmm.
they can throw anyone into the rotation as they please, and they can experiment early on in the year to see who would be a good fit for them. And like Fangraphs has, Dean Kramer, Keegan Aiken, and Bruce Zimmerman are the three guys they have slotted in the rotation right now, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily that's like the locked in rotation. Um, Kremer and Aiken did get a little bit of time last year. Aiken recorded a 4.56 ERA, Kremer a 4.82 ERA on the year. Bruce Zimmerman had an ERA north of 7
Yeah.
in his brief stint as a starter. But I think the Orioles have a good problem here with trying to figure out who is actually going to be in that rotation outside of Cobb and Means. I think it's safe to say those two have the first two rotation spots locked up. But there's so many guys that can come into play here for this team over the course of the year that um, it really could be interesting to see how Brandon Hyde runs the pitching staff, how they actually go about doing things, because I don't know if a lot of these guys are even going to see full five innings, which 5 innings is what
Yeah.
qualifies pitchers for a decision or for a win anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think we could see a lot of short inning work by these guys, at least maybe to start the year. Um, And then as the year goes on and reps are being made or being put in, they'll probably see longer inning times. I noticed on an unrelated note, I noticed the Padres are looking at potentially doing a six-man rotation this year because of how 2020 played out.
Yeah.
And this could be one of those situations too. I think we're going to see a lot of six-man rotations throughout the league this year, just in general. And I think the Orioles are probably one of those teams that likely will do a six-man rotation.
Hmm.
If not, they have two regular starters in Cobb and Means, but then maybe you alternate some guys in between them who they'll, or maybe they'll have like a string of guys that they use during one game of the year. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how the Orioles do their rotation and what exactly the plan is going to be there. Because I mean, they could go with anybody at this point, and whether they want to send some of these guys back to the minors to get some reps in, they wouldn't be wrong for that. Whether they think some of these guys are ready to be on the opening day roster and get a full season's work in, they wouldn't be wrong for that either. It is a good problem to have here, and I think this is a chance for the fans to see what the future holds. Um, Literally because they don't really have any outside help um,
Yeah.
other than Yolmer Sanchez. They pretty much everybody that's on the team is a homegrown product.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, to go exactly with what you said, they got a lot of homegrown products. They've got a lot of potentially tradable products. I think most of their bullpen uh, has enough major league experience that they could easily at any point move one of those guys for another piece that they can use down the road. Going back to Pedro Severino, I'm sure he's a guy that they could move. Even if they decide to move Chance Cisco, he would be easy to move. Alex Cobb, John Means, they would both be easy to move. They've definitely got a lot of avenues to uh, better situate themselves for the future. I know that the future's definitely not here yet for a team like Baltimore, but uh, it very well could be in the next, I'd say, like 3 to 5 years. They could start looking to maybe go out and get players who uh, could do more than just contribute to the team and pile up statistics. Players that could actually help them put together some good wins. I think it's only a matter of time before they finally bounce back. Uh, whether it be with guys they get via trade, or whether it's guys that they sign, or whether it's just more savvy drafting. I know that the Orioles in recent years, and even going back to the early mid 2000s, have always been good with their draft picks. So yeah, a lot of avenues to get better, and a lot of avenues to make their future better, even just as soon as this season.
And also to know with the Orioles, they're going to have to be creative in how they go about even the free agent market because they've got that albatross contract in Chris
Hmm.
Davis. They're going to be paying him through 2037, which is basically Bobby Bonilla 2.0.
Yeah.
Um, so they have to be creative going forward as far as if they are going to bring in free agents, how are they going to do that? One thing that will help them going into next year is Alex Cobb's going to be a free agent, so
Hmm.
they won't have his contract to deal with. It'll just be more so paying Chris Davis, and then you've also got to think about who within the organization now are they going to give extensions to,
Yeah.
which. I mean, right now it's too early to tell, but I would have to think Trey Mancini has to be in that mix.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know though. I think they gave him the team friendly 1 year deal this year, and um, maybe 2021 is that year that he shows if he's worthy of getting um, a contract extension, a friendlier one. He's not going to get Chris Davis kind of money, but he at least if he puts up a good enough season, the Orioles should try to pay him, give him something. And to go along with your bullpen note, they do have some established guys in there, like you were saying. Tanner Scott's a guy, Sean Armstrong, Cesar Valdez. They also have Fernando Abad, who I think is on a minor
Hmm.
league contract with the team right now, and he could probably play a role if he's to make the team. And then Paul Fry.
Hmm.
So the Orioles are they have a pretty strong bullpen. They had one of the best bullpens in the league last year, actually, which that surprised me too. I think that was part of the 20 of them being 10 games under 500 was their bullpen really helped them out throughout the
Hmm.
year.
Agreed.
And you said Hunter Harvey and Dylan Tate will probably play a part in the rotation, but the bullpen is a good start for those guys as they just kind of get some innings under their belt and work their way up that way. Those guys will definitely be competing for roster spots, and that takes me in to the team's top 30 prospects because the Orioles they had 10 guys on their top 30 prospects list
Hmm.
debut with the club last year, and they've got another 5 guys who are expected to make the team at some point this year. Um, Keegan Aiken, Michael Bauman, Dean Kremer, Zach Lowther, Alex Wells. Those are 5 guys just on the pitching side of things alone
Yeah.
that are expected to make their debuts this year. Um, so I mean, there there is a lot to look for with the Orioles, and you said that the future. I don't. You didn't think the future was quite here yet. I actually think the future is here for Baltimore. Um, I think it's already arrived, but when Adley Rutschman comes up, it's gonna really put the anchor in to say like this is the team that they're gonna be fielding for hopefully the next few years.
Hmm.
I mean, right now, I don't think they're going to compete with really anybody in that division. But a couple years from now, I don't see the Tampa Bay Rays really being that big of a threat much
Yeah.
longer. Um, the Red Sox, I'm sure, are going to. The Red Sox always seem to be in the mix. The Yankees always
Oh
seem to be
yeah.
in the mix. And then the Blue Jays, you got to figure, are going to be in the mix too. So Baltimore's got a pretty tough road ahead of them as far as with this core of guys that they have coming up and what the future holds. There's a lot to ask of this group that's coming up, and
Yeah.
it won't be easy for them because of the competition throughout the division, and then with the rest of the American League. Um, but this is going to be it's going to be exciting to see how this team does under this much adversity with having to compete with everybody else. And it's going to be exciting to see if this team can actually do it to begin with. I think how this year goes is going to really put into perspective what to expect from the Orioles going forward. And I don't know about you, but Baltimore's always been a team that I've been able to get behind. I've always enjoyed watching them. I know they've had a lot of mediocrity over the years, but they are a fun team when they have everything going well. And I don't know if it's just because they have the Red Sox and Yankees in their division, so it's easy to get a lot of hype around them whenever they have a successful team on the field. But they also have Mark Elias, the former front office exec with the Houston Astros, and kind of seeing how the Astros did things from 2011 to 2013, this has what the Orioles have been doing the last few years has a similar feel.
Yeah.
Um, and who knows, maybe next year, if things go accordingly this year for them and they actually have a decent enough record, and they don't necessarily need top draft picks to help them out much further, maybe in 2022 we see them take that leap, as most of these guys will now know what the major league experience is like, and they'll be able to compete and be able to compete with the big dogs up at this level. um, who knows though? I mean, just in the early goings, this has a similar feel to what the Astros were doing. Not saying it's going to play out the exact same way as it did for Houston, but it has the potential to.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. Personally, I don't see them competing or becoming close to competing as early as next year. I give them next year as another figure out what we have season. Because really, as of right now, I don't think they know what they have in a lot of these guys. So I think another year, at most another 2 years, of just kind of figuring out who we are. What kind of team are we, and what kind of baseball are we going to be playing. I think that'll go a long way towards deciding and figuring out when exactly they plan to, like the Astros did, just kind of spring out and start shocking the world and bringing their young guns up and starting to win some ball games. I think it's going to be at least 2 years before something like that happens. I know the Astros went through quite a while of complete mediocrity before they were able to put something together. And yeah, the way that the Astros kind of fell by the wayside after their run in the mid 2000s, they kind of fell to the wayside, and that's kind of what the Orioles did after they realized that they weren't going to be able to win, with the likes of like Chris Davis and Manny Machado. Um, I think that they, yeah, very 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 easily could draw a lot of comparisons, not only to this point as what the Astros did, but I think, yeah, like you said, they could very easily, in some similar way, kind of go down the same path that the Astros did, towards competing.
The only difference is it's going to being in the AL East. It's going to be a lot
Yes.
harder to match that because in Houston's defense, the AL West when they started rising was really starting to go downhill. Um, Texas had that resurgence, but I don't think anybody anticipated that in Houston's first 2 years of owning that division. But um, I think in Baltimore's case, they're going to have to find ways to get past the Yankees, the Red Sox,
Hmm.
the Blue Jays, maybe even the Rays. I mean, it's the road is a lot. I guess the neon light at the end of the tunnel is a lot dimmer
Hmm.
than it is for Houston because there's a lot more at stake, and they have to play the best baseball they possibly can, or else this whole experiment of trying to do the rebuild is just going to go to waste. Um, and for Orioles fans, they haven't had a lot to cheer about
No.
in the last few decades since their World Series run in 1983. There hasn't really been a whole lot to be excited about for them. Um, so this is really important for the Orioles, and I think this year and next year are going to be years that we're going to see what this team is capable of. And I agree with you. I think that the front office will start to realize around next year what they actually have, and where they need to improve. Um, because you can't really, on small sample sizes, you can't say where a team needs to improve necessarily. Um,
Yeah.
and the Orioles just have not seen enough of these prospects to really know what they actually need to improve in. So I agree with you on that part. I think that by 2024 at the maybe the earliest, that's when we're going to start to see what this team is really capable of. But I think
Yeah.
we're going to see hints and glimpses this year
Oh,
of
absolutely.
the potential this team has, and that's why I say they could surprise some people.
Yeah.
I think there is a certain amount of danger that comes in with teams that are prospect filled like the Orioles because most major league clubs have not seen these guys either outside of
Hmm.
and especially with 2020, really the
Yeah.
only opponents were the division rivals and then the National League East. So the American League Central and the American League West, the only thing they really have to rely on are scouting reports and the limited amount of film from last
Yep.
season. So I think that's what could make this team dangerous is the fact that not a lot of teams have seen this team specifically. They could be surprising in that way. Um, I think as far as win projection goes, though, I would probably say 70 wins is their ceiling. 65 is probably their floor. I don't really expect a lot of I don't expect a lot of wins out of this team this year, but I don't expect them to lose 100 games like they did in
Hmm.
2018 and 2019.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you there. I'd say somewhere somewhere around 65 to 70, maybe 72 if literally everything goes right. But yeah, I don't see this team as being. They might compete for the Red Sox, for the not the last place in the division, but I think I think with the addition of Adam Ottavino and the potential trade bait that he might be, I think I give the edge to the Red Sox. I think I have the Orioles finishing last in the AL East in 2021. Yeah, probably with a record of about 70 wins.
Yeah, 70 and 92 seems to be a good kind of a good line for them.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Orioles are going to be really, I don't imagine they're going to be really busy on the market throughout the
No.
year unless if they can move Alex Cobb. That's really that's the only move. And maybe some bullpen pieces. I think Sean Armstrong can be a movable piece for them too. Um, so I think the Orioles pretty much what they have going into spring training and whoever makes the opening day roster, that's probably going to be the team that is on the field for most of the 162 games, with the exception of maybe Alex Cobb getting traded or Sean Armstrong getting traded at some point in the year. Maybe even Trey Mancini if they don't think he's going to be part of the future. Um, but who knows? I'm not really sure how it's all going to play out and what the Orioles front office is going to decide to do.
Yeah.
But I do think I do like what they have in store. I'm excited to see what this team can do, especially when Adley Rutschman comes up. If he is as great as everyone thinks he's going to be, I think this team could be knocking on the door soon of
Hmm.
competition again.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, that is the breakdown of the Baltimore Orioles, and we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode today. If you know any Baltimore Oriole fans out there, please share this podcast with them. We'd love to get the support as much as possible. And if there was anyone that we didn't really talk about today that you feel like we should have mentioned, please let us know. Like I said yesterday, we're not perfect. We miss things, but I think with a team like the Orioles, they've got a lot of potential and there's a lot of guys to look forward to. So it is a little difficult to like get every single person, but we still want to hear your thoughts. If there was anyone that you felt like was worthy of a mention that we didn't get to, please let us know. But thank you again for listening to us today, and we're going to continue to do this throughout the rest of the week. We're going to do the Toronto Blue Jays tomorrow. If everything goes well, we may have a special guest on the show if we can get them on. So this will be a pretty exciting day. Yeah, any final thoughts on your end, Cam?
Um, to my Oriole fans out there, um, yeah, you're probably not going to have much to look at this season. You might not have much to look at next season, but you got a lot of young guys and you got a lot of hope. I'll give the Orioles fans that. They got a lot of hope.
Absolutely, I will second that. Well, in the meantime, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for
Hmm.
listening to us.
Thank
With
you.
that said, I'm Stephen Gossman,
I'm Cameron Lingle.
and so long. We will see you tomorrow.
See you guys.